The following information is provided for general advice. It is not legal or tax advice. You, our listeners, have very unique situations and should consult with a qualified attorney or tax advisor before making decisions regarding your financial planning or other business decisions.
This is the Business Experience Show, where we connect those who want to know more about digital marketing, social media, and business strategy with entrepreneurs who are succeeding in today's marketplace. Follow our blog, join our online network, or connect with us at thebusinessexperienceshow.com. And now, your host, Lisa Caprelli.
Welcome to the Business Experience Show. With me is business show producer Brian Gapps. We are here with our BFF, and in this case, BFF stands for Better Financial Future, with insurance and investment advisor Scot Shier of Quintessential Financial. Welcome, Scot.
Hi, Lisa. It's great to be here.
As always.
Hi, Scot. People don't just come to you to invest money, but they also just sit down and talk out some strategies with you, which can include overall planning for investment, retirement, financial planning, and life insurance, things like that?
That's correct. We cover the whole gamut.
And it seems like a carefully planned strategy might involve a combination of all these if it makes sense for an individual.
Absolutely. You have to look at the retirement plan, the savings, the future insurance needs, long-term care. It all fits into a cohesive package.
And you meet with individuals about their individual plans, but you also meet with people who are planning for their businesses.
A lot of our clients are business owners, and we want to make sure that they take maximum advantage of the tax code to shelter as much of their income as we can and also protect them against any potential lawsuits or even, we hope not, bankruptcy or other issues that may come along.
And something I've heard you say, which has been echoed by many other professionals interviewed on the show, is that a business partnership is just a breakup that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I'd say it's almost like a marriage or a divorce that hasn't happened yet, even more harsh.
And really the best way to enter into a partnership is to plan for all possible contingencies from the very beginning.
Absolutely. Now, you can't plan for everything, but you try to plan for as much as you can think of and prepare for.
Give us some tips that people should know, maybe they're not aware of, that you get commonly asked.
Well, one of the things, as Brian was saying, with a business starting up, if it is a partnership, you need to think about what if one of those partners dies. And you probably don't want to be in partnership with the deceased family members or children or spouse. But that's what happens in a partnership that doesn't have what's called a buy-sell agreement. Now, what that is basically life insurance on both partners. They do what's called a cross-sell or basically they each buy a life insurance policy on each other. It's normally like a 10-year term policy because you don't know how long a partnership's going to go on, but 10 years, maybe longer. But
right.
Those are relatively inexpensive. And then along with that, you have a contractual agreement that if one partner dies, the life insurance payout on that goes to the other partner, but he uses that whole policy then to buy out the estate of the deceased business owner. So he effectively ends up owning the whole business. The estate, which is normally the wife or the children, end up with the proceeds from that life insurance policy. So they're happy. They get a nice big payment, and they don't have to worry about trying to run a business they don't know about. So everyone ends up being happy. It's a relatively inexpensive way of protecting against what would otherwise be probably a catastrophic event for that business.
Give us some detailed information about this policy that we should know about.
Sure. A lot of the life insurance policies have been coming out with additional riders where not only do you have the benefit that's paid out upon death, but what about capitalizing on that policy while you're still alive? A lot of people are likely to need long-term care assistance. They encounter what's called chronic illness, an ongoing illness. In the industry, we define this as not being able to perform 2 of 6 activities of daily living, or ADLs, which is basically when someone's got Alzheimer's or they've had a stroke or something where they can't get out of bed without help, or they need help eating, toileting, bathing, changing clothes. Then if that happens, that's called a chronic care incident. A lot of policies now will allow you to use up your death benefit while you're alive to care for you when you're in that scenario. That's a great benefit.
So how do I know if an agent has the best choices to offer me if I'm a business owner or if I want personal life insurance?
Good question. One of the things is always to do your homework on any advisor that you're going to work with. And there's several sites on the internet that help you with that. One, when it comes to insurance, you want to go to the California Department of Insurance website, and you can search that on Google. And they have on there a link for checking out brokers and agents. And when you type in an agent's name on there, it pulls them up, and you can see who are they appointed with, what companies do they work with. And that's important because some agents only work with one or two companies. And if that's the case, can they really search and find you the best policy out there if they're only working with one or two companies?
And that website's really easy to use. And I do want to point out that a lot of this information is related to California, but some of it's also broad general information because we are available on podcast and
Absolutely, and I'm actually appointed in over a dozen different states for both insurance and securities. Now, securities is another area where you need to check someone out also. So if they're doing your overall financial planning and investments, you want to go to a site that's called FINRA.org. That's FINRA, FINRA, which is the Financial Regulatory Agency. And if you go to there, they then have a click-through called Broker Check, and you go in there and put in the broker's name. And that really is almost invasive because it will show you a whole history on a broker. Like you could look me up there and you'd see all my employment history. You'd see any other activities I'm involved with besides just my securities work, and you'd also see any complaints that have been filed against me. Fortunately, there are none filed against me, but you can.
Great. So if you're listening, you can check it out. Scot Shier. Scot is one with one T. SCOT. Shier. SHIER. Very Irish.
Right.
And I want to back up a little bit when you talked about the buy-sell agreements, because in the news we've all kind of heard along the way where some of the big corporations buy life insurance policies on their executives that then pay the money back to the corporation. And, there's different opinions about that. But we're not talking about that at all. You're talking about something for small businesses, entrepreneurs, small partnerships. And it's not that kind of structure. It's sort of a buyout agreement.
Correct. It really is a buyout agreement. The other one you described is a key man policy, where if the company were to lose a key man, they need to get a financial infusion to carry them through till they find a replacement. But what we're talking about is much more common between small business owners, where you got two guys building the business, and if one leaves,
I bet there's many businesses that don't have that. I'm just going to take a guess.
No, most of them, they wouldn't think of doing that unless their insurance agent or financial planner recommended, or if they were actually smart enough to be working with a business attorney to help them in the structure.
And I'm sure that's a tax write-off for the business to have one more protection
to
help you. So Cam, let's talk about life insurance. I know one thing before the show, you talked about there's different policies, obviously, when one's shopping for life insurance. And you talked about one that if you pass away, your surviving family, you can dedicate how much money you want to pay out in lump sums over time. And that's very interesting to me. I'm sure so many people don't know about that.
It was a fascinating idea to me, too, and I love it. One of the biggest problems we find in the estate planning arena is when someone inherits a lot of money. A lot of times you think it's going to be such a blessing to, if you inherit $1 million, wow, that's awesome. But it ruins the lives of so many people because suddenly they've lost their motivation to work. It's like, oh, they got this big cushion, and they might go out and buy a bunch of stuff and not think about the long-term impact and the maintenance and the costs, whatever. So it can actually ruin a lot of lives, especially when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars. So there are policies now that you can buy where the death benefit, rather than paying out in a lump sum on that life insurance policy, you, as the owner setting it up, you designate, let's say you get $1 million, and I might say it's going to pay out $100,000 initially. That's a good chunk, whether it's to my wife or to my kids. And then after that, it's going to pay out maybe, say, $4,000 a month for the next 20 years. So it gives them a good chunk to get them through initially, and then it gives them a nice cash flow, but it doesn't flood them with money that they can just blow or make a mistake with. It gives them a nice cushion, a good cushion for the next couple of decades.
That seems so common sense that life insurance agents should offer that. Why
Wouldn't
don't
you think so?
Why don't you hear more about that?
I don't know why.
But am I right in recollecting when I bought my life insurance and it wasn't through you, unfortunately. It was before I met you and you became our BFF. But
better financial future.
I recall it only allowing like one or two beneficiaries to be listed. It was very succinct in and limiting in what it allowed me to do. And this sounds like a much better option.
It is a better option. Policies, the applications always have their set layout, but you can always deviate from that. So if you want to have a more complicated beneficiary listing, you can just say, see attached beneficiary statement, and generally you'll want to work with an attorney or someone very familiar in this area to write out exactly how you want your money spelled out. And it might be as simple as just saying, per my living trust, and that's a good way. But what we're talking about with the payout stream is actually a fairly simple thing where you say, again, it's an additional form for some policies that offer this, where you say pay out a portion of the money up front and then the rest as an income stream over time.
So then does that mean that my policy is going to cost me less because the life insurance company is holding on to your money? Oh, well, good.
So it's a beautiful thing. Not only are you doing better for your beneficiaries, especially if this is going to kids, but you're also, it's going to, I've generally seen savings of 20 to 30% on your upfront cost for that insurance.
That's great. Well, I want you to take a look at my life insurance. Maybe I switch to that. And honestly, I have children. I would want the life insurance to be paid out over time, not in one lump sum.
Right. I agree. And this can be on both a term policy and a permanent policy, permanent referring to universal life or whole life.
That's great.
And it sounds as this gets a little more sophisticated, that the dynamics gets more sophisticated as well. And so the appointing of a trustee becomes more important.
Correct. You bring up another interesting scenario that kind of ruins a lot of families, and that is deciding who is going to handle that estate. So when the mom and dad die and say it's going to the kids, well, what if that estate says, well, we're not going to disperse it all at once to them. We're going to have it go over time. Well, who maintains it while it's dispersing over time? That's the job of a trustee.
And explain what trustee means for people who may not know exactly what that means.
Well, like the name implies, it's someone that you're trusting, a trustee, someone that you're trusting to handle your estate for you. So it's a legal position. They're legally liable to follow the instructions in a trust document. So, mom and dad set up a trust document. When they die, the money's, maybe an initial chunk goes out to the kids when they're 18, another chunk maybe when they graduate from college, another chunk when they're 25 or 30. But someone in the meantime has to hold and manage that money, invest it, and then decide when does it get paid out. And what if, when the kids say, oh, I got a great business venture, give me $100,000.
And you really don't want that to be multiple people. It sounds like you want one voice in that.
Correct. And people struggle. I mean, we all want to save money. So they want, rather than hiring a bank trustee, which you can do, then you have a very legal person following the letter of the law in administering those. But they generally want a fee of, 0.5% or 1% a year to manage those assets. And they may not be as emotionally in touch with your group. So most people will pick a family member to do it. That's great. As long as that family member can operate unbiased, for the benefit of everybody, great. Right. That's the best way, I think. But what a lot of people do is they pick multiple people as a trustee, and that can create problems.
Well, for example, I could see a parent or the mom or dad saying, we want to be fair. Let all the kids decide.
Now, again, I'm getting into legal areas where you always want to deal with an attorney that's appropriately trained in the estate planning area. But in my dealings with them, my experience has been you're better off to pick one person as a trustee, but give a couple other people auditing rights that have the right to review all the financials, to kind of act as a accountability person for the trustee.
And I have to say, Ted Hankin, a probate attorney, wills and trust attorney who we have on the show, he says you are doing your family a favor by giving them the gift of properly planning when you're alive.
Absolutely.
And this goes into that category. So listen, you want more information, you want to get a second or third opinion, you want to go to betterfinancialfuture.us. Scot, Shier, your new BFF. You want to get a second or third opinion. Go to betterfinancialfuture.us. Scot, something about you that a lot of people may not know is that you served as a pilot in the United States Air Force.
Well, I went through the pilot training program, which was a blast, got 120 hours flying jets, but the Air Force and I both decided it was better if I stayed on the ground. So after your pilot training, I actually went to designing, building, and launching spy satellites with the CIA and the Air Force.
How cool. So you could talk about that now.
I can now. It literally was top secret for 25 years, and now they have websites on the stuff we used to do.
Scot, the start of the Air Force motto is aim high, which is really a personal goal you set for yourself as you were high school valedictorian even before your military service and continue to this day.
Yes, it's a great motto to help remind us. You keep your eyes on the horizon, looking ahead, and also up on God, knowing that it's not all up to you. You need some divine intervention to carry through.
You are constantly attending educational courses, seminars, training, and self-improvement studies.
I acquire probably 100 hours of continuing ed each year, and a lot of that comes from being on the board of the Financial Planning Association with the great training that we have in all of our operations there, always staying on top of the latest financial planning arenas.
Great. You're listening to Scot Shier. If you missed any portion of the show, remember this and all of our shows are available as free downloads on iTunes, Catcher, Downcast, and other podcast directories. Quintessential Financial Podcast can be found there and also at betterfinancialfuture.us. That's betterfinancialfuture.us. Any last words?
Thanks for this time. Look, hopefully I can help lots of your listeners. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. You're listening to the Business Experience Show. I'm Lisa Caprelli, your host, co-host Brian Gapps. We had today Scot Shier from Quintessential Financial. We want you to get a better financial future, and so does he. Go to betterfinancialfuture.us. You're listening to Angels Radio AM 830 KLAA. The preceding is provided for general advice. It is not legal or tax advice. You, our listeners, have very unique situations and should consult with a qualified attorney or tax advisor before making decisions regarding your financial planning or other business decisions.
How do you stand out from your competition? If you've been wanting more leads, more results through social media, search engine optimization, video SEO, a better web presence, the Business Experience Show and Lisa Caprelli can help you. How will your customers choose you? How do you get to the top of Google organically? Grow your business effectively. It's easy. Market your business online and offline promote your brand. Want to advertise or be a guest on our show? Contact us today at thebusinessexperienceshow.com. That's thebusinessexperienceshow.com.